If you like RPGs, I think you're probably going to like Avowed. The way the game is being designed seems like the fundamentals of making a really good RPG are lining this whole game. The whole 30 FPS drama is one that I wanted to come in and just chime in on because we're about to get some tomfoolery going on the internet. You guys know how passionate I am with this whole 30 FPS thing. Since I saw the internet drag Gotham Knights, a Bat Family game, through the mud, as a Batman fan, I could not let that stand. So I set out with 1 year's worth of calling out the hypocrisy everywhere in order for people to realize and know that they like 30 FPS games. They just pretend when it's a 30 FPS game that they probably don't care about, or a 30 FPS game that they're more than likely not going to play. I know this simply because I watched a lot of these same people play Zelda at less than 30 FPS. Welcome to the Video Game Fight School channel. Man, this is insane. So I've been watching this whole Avowed thing. I don't know if I'm going to play it. It's a first-person game, not really my cup of tea. But I play some FPS games, actually. I say that, but, it's a preference thing. But you'll see me play Metro Exodus and be like, oh, it's the best game ever. The one game that I actually have done, the best review for is Metro Exodus, which is weird. I haven't even done a review like that for any third-person game, which I play more third-person games. But that aside, this whole 30 FPS drama is actually quite interesting. I mean, some people are saying, 60 FPS should be the standard. To be honest, I agree with them. However, I'm here to just say that, y'all were playing 30 FPS games just 10 minutes ago. You were voting 30 FPS games Game of the Year. In fact, right now, some of the highest selling games are 30 FPS games. And I'm talking about the generation before this generation, because most of those games, their sales occurred in the last generation, and most of them were 30 FPS games. And some 60 FPS games at this moment have not still touched the sales of those 30 FPS games, yet you can see this kind of stuff going around. I say this is probably one of those situations where the poor perception that Xbox receives in the media and in the internet and in just the general grand scheme of things can sometimes just be, a huge issue, for them. But here's the reality. People who like RPGs are going to play their RPG games. I mean, did they not just play Dragon's Dogma 2 in, less than 60 FPS? Did they not complain at first and then still ended up buying the game and then still ended up playing the game? So what's the big problem that these folk are complaining about if the game lands at 30 FPS, of which we're not even sure that the game is going to be landing at 30 FPS? The developer that was in the article literally just said that it's a first-person single-player game. You don't necessarily need 60 frames. And it allows us to get juicier with VFX, lighting, and other stuff. And he did say that 30 FPS was the bare minimum. That's what he said. Now, he's not inherently telling you something that, is out of whack. It's just that if they're going to give you 60 FPS on console, you're going to sacrifice VFX. You're going to sacrifice visual fidelity. I mean, some people are pretending like they didn't see this in another game that pretty much when it came down to its own performance mode on console, according to Digital Foundry, they basically they said that this game looked like a mosaic painting. That was insane. People were talking about how this game looked in its 60 FPS mode because the image quality was just downgraded significantly. So in order for you to be able to get one or the other, you have to actually have, heavy hitting machinery. That's your equipment that you're playing the game on in many cases, or the developers are going to have to do some rigmarole, which is just going to take time. They can make it all look great. They can make it all look good. But at the end of the day, I never really have seen anything inherently challenging with people playing at 30 FPS. I think, like I said, it's just them just wanting to cause a ruckus because, again, like I said, a lot of these same people, none of them complained when Zelda was 30 FPS. In fact, they gave Breath of the Wild Game of the Year at 30 FPS. They gave, what was the other one? Red Dead Redemption 2, when it was they were complaining, oh, it got robbed. It didn't get robbed. That was a 30 FPS game on console. I mean, I could just sit here and just list these 30 FPS games that everybody has sworn by their mommies that are the best thing in the whole wide world. So again, people are trying to create controversy where there is no controversy. People are trying to basically, get aroused out of every single thing because it's fun to be reactionary at the end of the day. And you know what's crazy though? I think the marketing of these consoles, and I got to put this on the console manufacturers too, because y'all are the cause of this particular thing. You created an expectation that realistically is a problem to meet. The industry had been sitting beautifully pretty on 30 FPS games for years. Not like they couldn't really do, 60 FPS, but 60 FPS is a whole different kind of game. Like, you're moving your entire game to a whole new dimension when it comes to trying to get your game to 60 FPS. On PC, this is something that they've been practicing, but they usually have a huge, divide between the hardware specs that could do 60 or 30. So they told you then, if you want to play 30, this is what you can use. But if you really want that beautiful, juicy 60, here's what you're going to need to go get. They give you all your PC requirements. It's listed, RAM, VRAM, CPU, all that. But in the console space, Xbox and PlayStation said to you, this thing can play up to 4K 120 FPS. They just didn't tell you that you could do that in Tetris, but you can't do it in freaking, Ragnarok. You got to checkerboard that sucker if you're going to get anything, that's in 1440, level and such. And so they can actually they having the PlayStation machine, can actually sit down there and be like, well, we could just say, we're not going to put this in the game because we know it's going to cause the game all these issues, bring out their games at 60 FPS and leave all the developers that are out there holding the bag. Cause it's like, well, I want to make a big fat open world. I don't want to make a open looking world God of War style game. What am I going to do? So now they're actually saddled with the challenges of dealing with all of that. So again, the ruse of the whole console marketing has just basically created a monster that I don't think anybody wants to, pretty much address. So instead, everybody is lambasting and, beating on devs left and right like the dev did anything. But again, too, this is also another Xbox control issue. So are they going to make sure the game hits 60 FPS before it comes out of the woodwork? This is definitely something that they have to think about on their own part. And then, the clowning continues to go on with Aaron Greenberg's tweet. 60 FPS would be the standard output, but the architecture allows us to support up to 120 FPS. They can support up to 120 FPS. Just depends on who's making the game, depends on the kind of game, depends on the amount of work they want to put in, depends on the development team, depends on their expertise, and all of the above. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is just so weird that we're going to be back here again talking about how 30 FPS is good for you and it's bad for you. Because again, you listening to this video, you've played some 30 FPS games that you enjoy, that you love them, and you told me to play them too. You even recommended some of them for me. You were like, man, you should definitely play The Last of Us Part 2. That game was actually a PS4 game, right? And y'all were telling me that I needed to play. I enjoyed Ghost of Tsushima on the PS4. I haven't even played the PC version. I don't want to. I don't need to. I mean, sure, fired it up on my PS5 and it was 60 FPS, but I was like, nah, I already played the game. I already enjoyed it. Don't want to play it on 60 FPS because that experience was already great to me at 30. And maybe it's just me, but this is just all, to me, it's just all wash. People are just looking for something to talk about and complain about at the end of the day. Or maybe there is some kind of a real complaint here that I'm not seeing at the end of the day. So let me hear your thoughts in the comment section. Yeah, maybe, you might need to chew me out a little bit and ask me to, get some sense. It's okay. Perhaps I'm missing something that, you guys are catching wind of. So talk to me in the comment section. Appreciate you guys so much. Peace out.